Okay.
All right. So here we are with another episode of Solutionaries. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino, and I basically do this podcast because I get to meet incredible individuals and organizations helping to shape the future and reshape a broken old paradigm of the past. I'm really glad to be here. It's a beautiful day here in Crestone, Colorado. And I'm currently between California and Colorado these days. And, we talk a lot about solutions around full spectrum regenerative culture and design. It can be a little confusing for people, but we like to talk about art, culture, spirituality. We also like to talk about renewable green energy. We also talk about alternative economics. We also focus a lot on food and water security. And it's a great way for us to meet people and to get their insights of how they're, again, helping to shape the new paradigm. And today I'm very honored to be here with someone who's going to be part of the Regenesis Gathering, September 24th and 25th in Mount Shasta. I want to introduce to the show Mark Musgarden, who works with Decentralized Money, correct? And welcome to the show.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me.
So why don't we start off with a little bit of how you got interested and what brought you to the current day of doing this amazing work?
So I've been a developer for quite some time, and I have sort of over time realized how technology is not always good. Technology can sometimes be very helpful for humanity and very beneficial, but sometimes it's downright dystopic. So, a lot of the technologies that we're kind of seen be introduced have a lot of privacy implications, have a lot of surveillance implications, and have a lot of implications for our freedom as well. And the technology that I'm currently interested in is decentralized. I call them open digital systems. Like Bitcoin is built on top of an open digital system. There's something called Ethereum that is allowing us to build a new financial model called decentralized finance. That's also an open digital system. And those systems are decentralized, meaning there's no middleman. There's no Wall Street firm in the middle. There's no Facebook, no Silicon Valley tech firm in the middle. There's no government in the middle. And that has a lot of good potential. That could be a technology, if used wisely, that could do a lot of good things for us. So I like that. But then there is what I call bad technology, dystopic technology. And what I'm trying to do is just trying to get the word out about something called CBDC, central bank digital currencies. And central bank digital currencies it's not decentralized crypto. It's a kind of digital currency, if you will, that would be totally centrally controlled by the Federal Reserve, which is our central bank system, and therefore would be controlled by the government. And our president has started issuing executive orders about regulating digital assets, and the Fed is pushing something we call it FedCoin, or the digital dollar. And the digital dollar is not decentralized. And when we listen to what the central banks have to say about this, and what they're telling us is that they want to track every last dollar that we spend. Now, if you want to make a purchase online, of course, yes.
And a question real quick, Mark, thank you. So they want to do that because there's also a lot of implications around revenues and taxes, and making sure that the government is still funded through, income taxes and capital gains from maybe property sales and different types of revenues. But they also want to do that because, again, they want to be able to monitor people's business. Is that correct?
Well, yes, but if you ask me what I really believe, I think it's really just a new mechanism of control. Because if you can control the money, you can control practically everything. And the thing is that they want to get rid of cash. So they don't want to just monitor payments sent digitally, or a check that you write that gets sent electronically overseas or whatever. They want to track you spending $5 in a coffee shop. They want all that digital. And that's an extreme level of surveillance. And it's not really just surveillance, it's control. Because what we've seen in the last 2 years is there has been the introduction of new kind of software systems like vaccine passport systems, um, where all of a sudden we're going to go, well, the intention is that we're going to go from a society where we freely walk into public spaces and stores and restaurants to where all of a sudden you need to scan a QR code everywhere you go to verify that you had something put into your body. So that's designed ultimately to be connected with digital currencies. And if we were ever to, if we were ever to allow something like that, the centralized bank itself, the people who control the digital currency, could shut off your money if you didn't comply with something. Maybe you.
It sounds very much like the social credit system in China, right? Where people get various social credits for different types of behavior and patterns, and everything from riding the bus to catching a flight. Is that correct? I think Mark might have frozen for the moment. We're going to see if he gets back on the call. But again, if you're just tuning in, you're watching Solutionaries here, part of Golden Road Media. And I'm broadcasting, actually, as you can tell, outdoor today. I'm not in my podcast studio, but I'm broadcasting live here in Colorado. And let's see if we can get Mark back on the call here in a minute. And again, I want to remind people that we will be doing our Regenesis gathering September 24th and 25th in Mount Shasta. And the focus is regenerative solutions. And of course, regenerative can be anything from green and renewable energy to human development, human resilience, emotional resilience, dealing with the human element of the regenerative movement, and also talking about things like alternative economics and also food and water security. So it's a huge spectrum of topics that we like to talk about. And as we talk about them, looking at some of the options and solutions for some of the ways things have not worked in the past. So hopefully we can get Mark back here in a moment. And he is back. So you there? Okay, you're back. Welcome. So as I was saying, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It sounds very much like the social credit system in China, where depending on your behavior patterns, you can be blocked from taking a flight, getting a visa, doing a lot of things within the society, but also that the ability for these things to really be hacked. We see hacking happen all the time. So please continue, and thanks for getting back on the call.
Right. That's exactly right. So this is definitely leading towards a social credit system that they already have in China, by the way, where the government gives you a score. And if you don't have a high enough score, you literally can't do things like get on a bus or a plane or a train, so forth and so on. So the bottom line is this. Look, here's what I feel strongly about. We as a people have to recognize when technology is good and useful and when it's not. We just have to develop that ability. And centralized technology has the tendency to centralize the collection of data. And those who control the data are the ones who control the money and many other things as well. So one of the themes that I'm kind of getting across is there's a difference between centralized technology and there's a difference between decentralized technology. And decentralized technology can be very useful if we use it wisely. So there's a lot of little things that people are going to have to start talking about. And one thing, another thing that's happening with our current fiat currency dollar, even though we're not on the central bank CBDC system, is our currencies get deflated over time. And people need to be aware of the difference between currency versus money. And things like Bitcoin are programmed to be deflationary. That's why a lot of people feel that Bitcoin and other decentralized, and that's because they're backed by something called cryptographic trust. So what I do, sorry, Mike, you just went out there for a sec. So another thing that I like to do, and I'm just before you ask a question, is I try to train people on how to secure their crypto so they do it the right way. Because as people are starting to get into some of the decentralized cryptocurrencies, which can be very good, by the way, they have a lot of value inherent in them, they're not using it correctly. They're parking their currency in centralized banking companies, or it's called CFI, centralized financial institutions. Those companies can go bankrupt, like they just did this past year when there was a huge bear market and huge market dip in the cryptocurrency market. And they're giving away their private keys, and they're losing their money. And that's because they don't know how to keep themselves secure. So we kind of have to just get on it, and that's what I'm just trying to do. I'm just trying to talk to people about the fact that we need to know when technology is good and when it's bad. B, we need to consider strongly about keeping cash in the system, non-internet connected physical medium, some medium of exchange that's not connected to the internet. And then for the virtual assets that do have value, how do you secure it? Because what we noticed in Canada this last year is during the trucker convoy protests, the government froze a lot of people's financial accounts. And that's a really scary thing because they weren't able to pay their mortgage. They weren't able to buy food. You can't do that if you know how to securely hold your decentralized crypto like Bitcoin or Ethereum. So that's part of how we create the new earth here. Okay. We gotta be a step ahead of these central banks because they're going to want to control everything. They're going to want to track everything. And if you ask me, they're stealing the wealth of the people and they're implementing more and more mechanisms of control. So how do we get the word out? How do we tell people about making sure we keep cash in the system? How do we tell them the difference between centralized technology and decentralized technology? And how can they be secure as more and more of them get onboarded into this crypto landscape? Because we don't want them losing money. We want people to keep their wealth as as they generate it, instead of having it be inflated away because they've just been saving fiat currencies or they've been mismanaging it. So that's my training. That's what I do.
And it's really interesting too, because I've been following, I'm an investigative journalist where I follow things. And recently the huge protests that also happened in China with literally the millions of people that invested into real estate and development and prepaid for houses. And that company, I think it's called Evergreen, is now collapsing because they can't afford to keep developing. But also on top of that a lot of people invested online through different ways to like get high interest yield accounts. And I think something like some ridiculous amount, like $8 or $10 billion was actually extracted out of the country. So I like what you're saying because, every day there's another snake oil salesman out there who's trying to sell us on a way to take our money and put it into some new idea, or some new concept, or get a bigger ROI, return of investment, or decentralize your money. But again, in a lot of these scenarios, we see that people end up losing not only all their money, but can lose a great amount of the valuation of their currency. And I know that's happening with crypto recently too. I know a lot of people who have really gotten blown out over the last few months because the declining in the value of crypto. So if we can just rewind for a minute, let's assume someone's watching this and they know nothing about crypto, and we're talking about decentralized money. I personally, I just started a DAO recently, a decentralized autonomous organization, and it's a way that we can all vote on the blockchain, and we're using MetaMask as our wallets as a way to be able to communicate with each other, because there is a level of buy-in for every stakeholder. So for someone just getting involved in this, I know MetaMask is one of the popular platforms. What are your feelings about MetaMask and how that relates to the blockchain and the chain? And then I would like to talk for a moment about Ethereum, please.
Sure. So you need to be able to interact with these decentralized systems. So Ethereum right now is a network that's hosting DeFi, decentralized finance. And what Ethereum is good for is it's good for deploying something called a contract. It's just a immutable computer program that you can deploy, and it can't ever be taken down. And if it's useful, people can use it. And what it's doing, DeFi is doing, is it's not a solution, if you ask me. It's removing a problem, and that problem is central banking. And the problem is all these central actors taking a big chunk out of all the transactions. Now, MetaMask is a wallet, and these decentralized systems are built on something called public key cryptography. And a wallet is a combination of two cryptographic keys, a public and a private key. Okay. If this is new for you, it's going to be strange, but this is like the rock bottom minimum that you have to know. So when you want to use a web interface to interact with some kind of DeFi protocol, which is like, you want to leverage your crypto to be able to get dollars so you can pay your rent and translate your crypto into the real world so you can pay for stuff. You need to interact with that little money Lego, that DeFi money Lego on Ethereum. You need a MetaMask. You need a wallet. Otherwise, you can't do it from the simplicity of a web browser. So it's a very important part of the DeFi ecosystem. One of the problems that the DeFi ecosystem has now, it doesn't have a great user experience. It's complicated. People have to get onboarded. They have to get Ether to be able to start interacting with these systems. And there can be a lot of confusing things, but MetaMask right now is an important part of the ecosystem. It's a wallet, and right. you gotta go ahead.
And it's interesting because I just had a meeting in New Mexico with a gentleman from India that I'm starting to work with. And I guess he was one of the principal people that worked with the young guy whose name I don't remember, who was the founder of Ethereum.
Vitalik.
Yes, exactly. And he actually helped create the system. So I appreciate having this discourse with you. I will say, people always say, there's 10 million videos on YouTube. What makes us different with Solutionaries is we're actively creating synergy and connectivity between Solutionaries, individuals, and organizations like yourself to try to help navigate all the information that's out there. Some of it fake news, some of it misinformation, some of it accurate. So again, I just wanted to add that at some point where I'd love to have a discourse with him and bring him into the conversation. But he's a design person like yourself, and currently he's working with NFTs. He actually just got awarded a contract to work with GameStop around their NFT platform. So anyways, it's just fascinating to me because I think it's very straightforward, the idea of decentralized money. And now, how governments are starting to embrace cryptocurrency, but like you said, they want to have it centralized so they can control it and tax it and monitor it. And that could potentially be tied into a social credit system, which means control, as opposed to right now, I work, I get money, I can go anywhere I want and, buy a sandwich, buy a plane ticket and do whatever I want fairly. Exercising my freedom and liberties to do that. But under this other centralized controlled banking method, there's less freedom to do that, correct?
You're exactly correct. I'm really glad that you phrase it that way. That's it. So you're aware of the dangers of where we could go with the CBDC, which could translate ultimately to a social credit system. So I'm glad you know that, because I know it feels like a lot of people are just not hip to the changes that they're making and where they want to push us. And, it just has so many ramifications for the freedom, our freedoms and the freedom of future generations. So I'm glad you said what you said because you're aware.
Yeah, and can you mention a little bit about the exchanges? Because I know a lot of people that had crypto and were trying to transfer it back into fiat dollars or what I would say 3D world dollars, so they could pay rent and get groceries and do some of those things. How does that happen once you get your money going into your MetaMask wallet and working through the blockchain? How does that come back out of the system into currency that you can be spent? And I also know there's probably people who accept crypto payments too, correct?
Yes, people do. It's very easy to accept crypto payment. All you have to do is give people your public key, and then they send money to it. So yes, people do accept crypto payment, but most people, I would say, don't. Most people accept only our fiat currency in our country. So here's how it works to translate decentralized crypto into fiat currency. Mike, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I just turned my camera off bandwidth to get a better signal.
So here's how it works if you need fiat currency to use it in what you call 3D reality outside of a virtual space. So firstly, there's a difference between centralized exchanges and decentralized. I call them money Legos. But for example, I myself am slowly pulling myself out of the central banking model. I'm getting rid of my Chase credit card. I'm getting rid of any kind of accounts that I have with the Rockefeller associated banking system, blah, blah, blah. But I need to get the money, the fiat currency in 3D so I can fund my business and pay my bills and pay the rent and the this and the that. So what I do is I use a decentralized DeFi protocol on Ethereum called Compound. And what you could do is if you have an asset like Ether, you can stake your Ether and you can get something called a stable coin in exchange. And it's all done without a middleman because it's just computer code. There's nobody resistance in the future years. And what you do is you leverage a cryptocurrency like Ether to get something called a stable coin. And a stable coin is a cryptocurrency that's pegged to a fiat currency like the dollar. So one DAI coin, which is a type of stable coin, equals $1, or one USDC, which is another kind of stable coin, is equal to $1. So we need stable coins. And then once you get a stable coin out of a DeFi protocol like Compound, which is just a computer program, it's called a smart contract, although it's not really smart. It's an immutable computer program. You get your stable coin out of that, and then you have to find somebody as of now who's willing to take your stable coin and give you dollars in exchange. So right now people are using a centralized exchange like Coinbase to trade their stable coin, like their DAI coin or their USDT or USDC, for dollars. And then once a centralized exchange makes that swap for you, then you can put it into your regular banking account if you have it, to allow your rent to be automatically deducted every month, so you have the dollars in that account. So there is a centralized component right now because the cryptocurrency has to be translated into fiat currency because everybody's accepting fiat currency predominantly, and that's what we're using to pay for things. But I think yes, go ahead.
And how does that work? Because I know every day, the value of the dollar is shifting. Now the euro is actually $1 euro is now worth less than the US dollar. I know the Canadian money has dipped even more. And, we won't even get into right now about the fact that most fiat dollars, US dollars in print, actually have no gold. They're actually not really backed by anything right now. They're just printed dollars. But how does that work when people want to, convert their crypto into dollars. Is that something that is done right at that moment based on the value of the dollar, or how does that work?
That's a really good question. So different stable coins use different ways of being able to peg $1 to one stable coin. So some of them use special algorithms, like the DAI stablecoin uses an algorithm to do that, whereas other stable coins are a little bit more mysterious. We don't know exactly how they do it. Like I'm not sure if it's USDC, which is a little bit more non-transparent about how they do it, but they have different mechanisms of being able to translate one of their stable coins to $1. And that's a whole conversation in and of itself.
Got it.
But
So let's do this just to simplify it for any viewers. I'm totally ignorant about crypto. I have, let's say I have $100,000 in the bank, and I'm just tired of bank fees. I'm tired of, Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, the Rothschild, typically all the big banking families who set up shop here in the U.S. of getting bank fees. I want to withdraw my money out of the banking system, and I want to go more into the blockchain. Can you just give us a quick 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of bullet points of how people would do that, and what are the most trustworthy platforms to do that at that point? And maybe out of this, we can help get you some consultants, because I do know that this information, especially from someone like yourself who has done the homework, is valuable. But can we just kind of, we'll do the abridged version of, the Idiot's Guide to De-investing from Central Banking.
Right. Okay. So the first thing that you would need to do is you would need to purchase a cold storage wallet, which is just, I wish I had it with me, but it's just kind of like a USB key. This is not it. It's not on me right now. I don't have it on my desk, but something like a Trezor device or a Ledger. And that would hold your wallet, which again is a combination of a public and a private key. But the private key always stays on that cold storage device and is never shared out, is never given to the internet. So that's the first thing that you would do, is you would purchase that. Okay. Now, once you have that, then if you wanted to buy Bitcoin, right?
And don't lose that wallet, correct? Because I've heard nightmare stories where people had a lot of money on those devices and they lost it, or they forgot the password and they were literally locked out, correct?
Right. And that's part of my training, because I train people how to secure this, because you need to document something called a 24-word seed phrase that you never, ever put on a digital device ever, and that you keep secure in case you do lose your cold storage wallet. Okay. And if you did lose your cold storage wallet, you could always recreate that wallet through something called a 24-word seed phrase. And you would make 2 copies of a 24-word seed phrase. You would store 1 copy in, let's say, a fireproof safe in your home, and maybe you could put another one in a safety deposit box, or give it to your mom or somebody you really, really trust. You have to be very careful about that, though. But yeah, you basically back up the cold storage device with a written on paper only 24-word seed phrase. It's just a collection of 24 random words that you write on a piece of paper that could always be used to reconstitute your wallet in case you lost the cold storage device. Okay. Very good point that you brought that up. But that's part of the training that I give. So I make sure people know how to do this. But in any case, you've gotten the cold storage device, you've backed up your 24-word seed phrase. The next step for you to do would be to create an account on Coinbase right now. This is how people are doing it. And you would move however money you want to move out of your bank, and you would purchase Bitcoin with it, or you could purchase Ether with it. And once you do that and you have that money, you have your Bitcoin in your Coinbase, The next step you have to do is you have to move it to your cold storage wallet. You have to send it. And all you do, it's just a button that you click on the Coinbase interface, and they'll take the Bitcoin and they'll move it to your wallet, which sits on your cold storage device. And then once that happens, if Coinbase ever gets hacked, your money is secure because it's not on a centralized exchange like Coinbase. It's on your cold storage wallet. If the United States government decided they didn't like you because you were protesting something, they couldn't freeze your accounts, because Bitcoin and Ether are built on top of these, I call them open digital systems. They're built on public key cryptography, and the government can't do anything. They can't seize your assets. I mean, of course they could come to your door and point a gun to your head and say, give me your private key so we can take your money, but they couldn't do it to all of us at once. So that's it in a nutshell. You need a cold storage device. You need to know how to back it up properly, and you just make a purchase on Coinbase, a centralized exchange. And then once you have purchased, you've exchanged your dollars for Bitcoin or whatever else you like, you move it to the cold storage device. Now, just to give you one extra tip, there are Bitcoin meetups around the country where you could trade dollars directly for Bitcoin if you didn't want to use a centralized system like Coinbase, because Coinbase is regulated, and it has to know who you are. It has to get your driver's license. It has to get your your social security number and all that stuff. So some people do trade cash for Bitcoin directly, and of course, if you do that, there's nothing that's being tracked. But that's just that's something for not everybody does that. Most people use.
Right. Well, this is fascinating. I'm definitely learning a lot more. Like I said, I've just been putting my toes into the water, learning about Ethereum and the blockchain, learning about DAOs, which are these decentralized autonomous organizations where people basically vote through the blockchain as part of like an experiment in decentralized governance and holacracy. I've been watching a lot about NFTs, which is a fascinating area to me, like how people are paying, tens of millions of dollars for gorillas wearing sunglasses and, for pieces of art that they don't actually get the art or own it, but they own a part of it. So it's a really fascinating area. I know there's a lot of rabbit holes, but I like the fact that today we can talk about real practical, what does it mean and how people can onboard. And if people would want more information, and obviously you do consulting in this area, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, I train developers mainly right now on how to build for DeFi, and developers can find me at DeFiDeveloperAcademy.com. Right now, the sort of training that I do for regular people, non-developers, I don't really have anything set up for that, because it's just me kind of doing things from, working from the heart and just trying to get a message out there that we need to not go cashless and make sure we keep cash in the system. But yeah, the main way to contact me is at DeFiDeveloperAcademy.com. That's my training program for developers who are building for DeFi. But if you want to get together with me directly, you can just email me if you want to, and there's that. But I can't hear you, Michael. You just muted yourself.
Well, it's nice because you understand the technology and development side of it, as opposed to just like a user of the technology. So you have a little more of a deeper understanding. And I'm sure that it's such a dynamic area that you're constantly kind of tracking what's happening. And I know every day, I mean, there's so many narratives. I know that there was a huge campaign about a year ago for governments not to use crypto and use the blockchain. I know that there's also been things that have come up about, crypto or Bitcoin and potentially other current cryptocurrencies being used for, black market type of stuff and crime. So I know there's such a mass of stories, information out there. It's nice to get kind of something more from someone working on the development side. Before we wrap, what suggestions or what advice could you offer to people who are looking to kind of get into the whole crypto world, and what makes sense of a way that they could, move forward and explore while de-investing from the crumbling old centralized system?
All right. So here's step number one. You need to invest a certain amount of time in learning what I call the open secrets of central banking, because then everything makes sense to you. Once you understand how our whole central banking system is built on top of some privatized corporate entity having the power to print fresh air money out of thin air and then charge us interest for it, then you start to understand why decentralization is necessary to begin with. So, you know, we allowed in this country the creation of the Federal Reserve System, and the new Earth and the new humans on the new Earth, they're not going to make a lot of changes until that stuff gets removed. That's why I kind of like think of DeFi not as a solution. I think of it as like a removal of a problem. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to add stuff on people's plates here because we already have enough to worry about. I'm trying to like help remove a problem, and that problem is central banking. And they're just taking more and more, and they want to exercise more and more control until they, I mean, if I were to be honest, I think they want to connect us to the internet. They don't want to just connect our money to the internet. They want to connect our bodies to the internet. They want to connect everything in the internet. So we need to get the money back. And that's the first step. Like, learn how our money system works.
Well,
There's a
it's all
great,
part of the transhumanism agenda, which I know can sound like conspiracy talk, but I mean, let's admit it: the robotization and webinization and getting everybody. I mean, look at the movie The Matrix. It was extremely prophetic because it talks about how everyone is, connected into this worldwide mechanism of control and surveillance, et cetera. So, it's definitely part of the transhumanism. And there's other parts of that we're not going to talk about today. We'll stay focused on the financial, but I think it's easy to see without looking too far that this is happening and unrolling very quickly in real time. And also, if we look at what's happening with the World Economic Forum and what's happening internationally, the crashing of banks and the bankruptcies of huge corporations and trillions of dollars disappearing, it's definitely very concerning.
totally. That whole biodigital convergence stuff, which they're openly talking about, has a lot of ramifications for future generations. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But in any case, like I said, step one, there's a free miniseries on YouTube. It's called The Hidden Secrets of Money, and it's excellent. And the person who produced that kind of explains very clearly how our Federal Reserve banking system works. So once you understand how that works, then you understand why things like Bitcoin were created to begin with. And then after that, if you're interested in the virtual assets, because not everybody is interested in the virtual assets. Gold is another kind of decentralized money, or silver. Some people prefer that, and that's totally fine. You know what I'm saying? I like gold, but a lot of the millennials will kind of gravitate towards the virtual assets like Bitcoin. So then the next step for you, after you understand how our whole central banking model works, is for you to just understand the rock bottom fundamentals of something like Bitcoin. Like, what is a public key? What is a private key? What is a wallet? And how do I keep myself secure? You don't have to even get into like the complicated stuff, like how does the consensus algorithms work, and how does the whole system get coordinated to incentivize every decentralized actor to participate in the system and keep it secure. You don't have to bother about that. You just have to know what a wallet is, and what a private key and a public key is in a 24-word seed phrase, and how to keep yourself safe if you like the virtual assets. And once you do that, I mean, you could always take it to the next level, which I'm sure a lot of people are. And that's completely unplugging yourself from the central banking model and then just sticking to DeFi when you need a loan for your business, or you need a loan for whatever, and you can start to learn how to leverage your crypto in order to get the 3D fiat currency that you need to pay your everyday expenses. Then you're really starting to unplug from the system. But the
And that,
UX, go ahead.
and then there's other parts too about land patents and private membership associations. There's other ways too to help bolster our independence from the gross overreaching of government and corporations. I really want to control every aspect of our life too.
Right. Yeah. The blockchain can be used as a single source of truth to document ownership of a lot of different things. I mean, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what people are going to come up with and how they're going to utilize their creativity to make everybody's life better using this technology. Just it's important for us to remember that again, tech isn't always good. You know what I'm saying? Not everything has to be connected to the internet. I say let's we don't want to get rid of cash. Getting rid of everyday physical cash, not non-internet connected cash, is something that we need to keep around. People also have the ability to create their own local currencies, which is not something we've seen a lot of. But I hear in Mount Shasta, there's a lot of different communities that are starting to unplug. There's the people, there's the conservative patriots. They're on the same page in a lot of ways and different in some other ways, but they know that they're have to start thinking about parallel alternative economies if things really go bust with the current systems. So there's nothing stopping a community from printing its own local currency, and then a community could totally become completely self-sufficient if it was able to do that. So there's always that opportunity. But
and even looking at the old world models of the trading posts and the idea of energy equity, and maybe I grow carrots and I grow really good organic carrots, but someone else in the community grows cabbage and we can exchange. Or someone who's a carpenter, instead of making money to buy food, there's also like the old school bartering and energy equity system. And I actually see that model working in several communities I visited over the last year, about how people value their time, energy, and services, and how that can be traded and bartered and exchanged within communities itself, outside of a printed currency also.
Right, exactly. So thinking locally is really a good step forward for a lot of us. So there's always that option as well. People coming up with their local currencies. I know a place in New York called Ithaca created its own local currency called Ithaca Hours, which was working for quite some time. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion in and of itself.
Absolutely. I used to live in the Pioneer Valley, and we had Valley dollars. It was the same type of thing where you could pay. It got hard because only a few businesses agreed to take them. So it was like 90% of the community wouldn't accept them. There's a very small people who bought into the concept. So, but I think more and more, sometimes these ideas are ahead of their time, and people are learning more and more of the importance, especially right now with the volatility of stock market, the volatility of the value of fiat dollars, the volatility of work. They're talking about basic social income, because with technology, and I love what you said, how there's good technology and there's bad technology, because they are proving that technology is going to take away a lot of the jobs that provide people their livelihood. So what are we going to do when there's less and less jobs available, and more people who need money and resources to be able to eat and do those basic things? So I like you said, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but this is like an amazing time in human history to start looking at new ways of doing things.
Exactly. And you're right. And they're centralizing our food systems too, which is also really concerning. So yeah, we're gonna have to hunker down and figure out the best path forward. But I'm really an optimist, and I see around me more and more how people are awakening at their own pace, and hopefully we'll all awaken in a way that's more compassionate than we've been before. But you're right. The jobs are going to be outsourced to the AI and the robots soon, and they're going to be those people are going to be put on a UBI, a universal basic income. And some people are for universal basic incomes because they make the argument that every human being has the right to have at least their basic necessities paid for. The only problem with UBIs, though, is if the government gives it out to you, it's going to come with strings attached. They're going to be able to control everything
Yep.
that you do. And a lot of us see that. And that's why we want to remain as financially independent as we possibly can so we could be free.
Right. Well, I think that's why we see a lot of people pushing back against the concept of socialism here in the United States, because you become completely dependent on the government. And there's a lot of shades and nuances to these concepts of socialism and communism. I also want to comment before we go here in a minute. Can you tell the name of that video again on YouTube? And I want to encourage people to watch it soon, because a lot of media is being deplatformed right now as we speak and not accessible. So it would be good if people had the opportunity to check that out. What was that called?
Okay. So if you want to learn how our current central banking system works, go to YouTube and watch a series called The Hidden Secrets of Money. The Hidden Secrets of Money. It's very well done. It's about 11 episodes total. It's going to teach you everything you know about how our centralized Federal Reserve banking system works. And then once you know that, you're going to understand the point of something like Bitcoin. And more importantly, you're going to understand the benefits of decentralization versus centralization. Okay. The more we can decentralize, the more free we can be. That's my opinion. So The Hidden Secrets of Money, go check it out on YouTube. It's excellent.
Great. Well, Mark, I have to say, I've really enjoyed this brief drop, and I look forward to meeting you in person in a few weeks up at the Regenesis gathering. And more than just an event, that we're starting to build connectivity between people like yourself, solutionaries, people who are looking at the next new paradigm of human evolution. And it's a very dynamic time of change. So thank you for your time. And I look forward to hearing your presentation in a couple of weeks. And we'll have this video available to help encourage people to get their feet a little deeper into the pool of decentralized money. And I really appreciate all the work that you do and this time that we had together today.
All right. Thanks, brother. Thank you for giving me the opportunity of presenting at the end of this month, on the 24th and the 25th in Mount Shasta. I'm really looking forward to it. So thanks for giving me the chance.
Absolutely appreciate it. And have a great rest of your weekend here with the full moon. And I'll see you in Mount Shasta very soon.
Okay. Have a good day, bro. Bye-bye.
All right. You too.